Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, my name is Parker Nirenstein, and this is Vehicle Virgins. If you haven't already seen my head-to-head review between the E63 and the new BMW M5, then I suggest you do so. It was one of the best videos I have ever made. I've got a link in the description below for that. But today is all about comparing the straight line speed, the braking abilities, the launch control, the drift control modes of the E63 against the M5. Now, because this car is VF tuned, it makes 740 horsepower, I thought, well, that's not really fair. So we got Alejandro's E63 wagon. Thanks so much to Salamandrin. I mean, if you're not following him, if you haven't heard of Salamandrin, I'm not quite sure what you're doing. But that way, we can put this stock for stock against each other. Now, one small thing to note is the wagon is 150 pounds heavier than the sedan, which means we might put Frankie in the passenger seat of the M5 to level out the weight, or I would say myself, but yeah, I'm not 150 pounds, I wish. Another thing to note is the weight distribution's a little bit different on the wagon. It's a little slower around corners and on the racetrack, but because of the airy cabin, the exhaust sounds better. Let's head out. Just got done finishing the review, and oh my gosh, is the BMW M5 epic. And of course, the E63 is brilliant as well. We are about to put these cars head to head. We've got a private spot around the corner. So let's go over some engine data. In the M5, 4.4 liter twin turbocharged V8, 600 horsepower, 553 pound-feet of torque. In the wagon over there, the E63, we've got a smaller displacement, 4 liter twin turbocharged V8, making 602 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. So we've got a lot more torque in the E63, a negligible power increase, but there is one big difference, and that is the weight. The E63 itself weighs 299 pounds more than the M5. But the E63 wagon weighs an additional 150 pounds more than the E63 sedan. So we're talking 450 pound difference. In order to make it a fair comparison, there is no wagon version of the M5. We're gonna stick Frankie in the passenger seat of the M5. He's about 160 pounds to change the difference between the wagon and the sedan. If we were in the sedan, obviously it would just be one person in each one. Let's get the GoPro set up and finally figure out which one of these cars is faster. As with all Vehicle Virgins videos, this is the losing angle. So hopefully we don't have to use this one on the E63 wagon. And this angle is the winning angle. If we're using this camera, the E63 wagon is faster than the BMW M5 when their weights are equivalent. So consider this an E63 sedan. They are mechanically the same. There's just that weight difference. Honestly, I was pretty sure that's what was going to happen. I have seen so many different races of M5s versus E63s, and it seems like every other race, the M5 wins or the E63 wins. But I feel like from a roll, it seems unanimously that the E63, with its more torque, something about its gearing perhaps, that from 50 to 100, the E63 does pull pretty hard away from the M5. Now, from a launch, when we actually got off at the same time, the E63 actually started pulling away. Regardless, both the cars are extremely fast. I know there's gonna be some butthurt M fanboys, but all I'm gonna say is this: I absolutely love the M5. The steering feel is better on it. It is a tremendous car. And yeah, it lost in this rear world scenario. Potentially on another day with the moon in the other direction, maybe it would have put up a better fight, but you guys saw it. The E63 is faster. So for the heck of it, why don't we put, I don't know, the E63 wagon that's stock up against the 740 horsepower E63 sedan. Judging by how fast that was, I guess we'll see. I mean, the reality of it is, with an extra 140 horsepower, this should walk it. But from a launch, I don't know, let's try. This thing absolutely walked it. The only chance I had really was in reverse, so we figured we'd race in reverse, and this one purely because I think the driver of this vehicle was a little timid of crashing my vehicle, and I don't blame him. Thank you very much. I think we gotta do like 2 roll races, see what it's like. Let's do it. Since I'm not quite sure what wagons are for, I'm doing this, but obviously the wagon is slower without the tune, but damn, the E63, the sedan, took off, I'd say a half a second after this car did. And anyone who does roll racing knows that if you get a jump on another car, it's almost an instant victory. That makes a massive difference because you're gaining speed and accelerating when they're not doing anything at all. And even a faster car might necessarily lose to a slower car if the slower car gets the jump, but it didn't matter. This car got annihilated by the tuned E63. I'm pretty stoked on that. VF, you guys killed it. But let's go ahead, hop inside, and show you what this is like to drive from a first-person point of view. Go ahead and hop in, and the first thing that you note is these 2 red buttons on the steering wheel. Now, what are those? Those are actually driver customization. So we have a whole bunch of different drive select modes down here in this little setup area. This one shaped like a tachometer is the engine response and transmission response. Then we have the different setups for the suspension as well as the steering. Then here we have the active exhaust. Click that to make it loud. Button for the camera. The camera on this thing is actually quite good. Let's go ahead and throw it into reverse. Really good graphics. We can click on different cameras here. I love the fact that this is actually a touchscreen display. Look how beautiful that is. It's actually rendering the F90 in real time where I am right here in the middle of nowhere. This is touchscreen and has fantastic graphics. I also love the juxtaposition of the red amongst this beautiful black interior. We've got carbon fiber, very small weave. That's actually a free option. Go ahead and put my seatbelt on. So we have an 8-speed automatic transmission. That's right, the DCT is gone, but you don't mind whatsoever. This 8-speed automatic transmission actually has a brilliant feature that completely locks out the torque converter, an issue with normal automatics, so that shifts are crisper than ever and power is not limited in the slightest. The 8-speed automatic is smoother. It shifts just as fast and it can handle more power. So it is a win in every single regard. And compared to the E63 that also has an automatic, definitely not missing out there. The steering feel in the M5 is absolutely awesome. Visibility out of the front windshield is tremendous. Honestly, it does inspire more confidence behind the wheel, wow, than the E63 does. It definitely does not sound as nice, nowhere near as good, but the steering, wow. And the suspension setup is really what they did a fantastic job with on this car. The fact that in comfort mode, it's every bit as comfortable as a normal 5 Series. And then in Sport Plus, we've got limited body roll. We've got these nice paddles mounted behind the steering wheel that feel good to the touch. BMW always has these nice thick steering wheels that feel really good in your hands and really give you commanding control over the car. Rear visibility is great. The levels of mechanical grip in all-wheel drive mode is pretty dang impressive. Let's go ahead and click MX Drive. And then as you can see, we've got 3 different modes: 4-wheel drive Sport, which is more rear-wheel drive bias, and then 2-wheel drive. Let's go ahead and click it into 2-wheel drive mode. Can only be set during ESC off. Obviously, for epic drifts, it's the same thing as drift mode in the E63. But in these canyons, honestly, well, the BMW M5s have always been rear-wheel drive, and that's how M enthusiasts, and myself included, felt like they should be. Now that you can switch it to rear-wheel drive, you've got that best of both worlds, a 0 to 60 time of 2.8 seconds. I mean, that's just absolutely ballistic. But even in all-wheel drive, it doesn't feel like it actually understeers or has any of the issues that you're used to with an all-wheel drive setup. It's actually pretty staggering. So let's double-click M2. That has traction control all the way off. And then we'll go ahead and head back here and click 2-wheel drive. So now I am running in full rear-wheel drive with 600 horsepower. And of course, most importantly, not only 600 horsepower, but 600 horsepower all the way to the rear wheels. Now, from the driver's seat, it actually feels a tiny bit slower than the E63. The fact is, that is by no means true. They have the same 0 to 60. They have the same quarter-mile time of 11.1 seconds. Around the slalom courses, around the track, pretty much every single measurable aspect of the two cars is identical. Where this really shines is in comfort, which is surprising. That should be Mercedes' thing, right? It's a BMW, not an ultimate luxury car, but this is more comfortable than the Mercedes, and it also is a little bit more fun to drive in the canyons just based on steering feel. Based on sound, it's not, but we've got this gorgeous heads-up display in front of me. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, especially with this terrible glare. I apologize about that, guys. But I love that race car inspired shift indicator. It's really cool driving this car, guys. I mean, the channel started out with an E39 M5. Since then, I've reviewed an E60 M5, I've reviewed an F10 M5, and now I have reviewed the F90 M5. And honestly, since the E39, I didn't like the E60 or the F10 better than that car. And this is the first one where, despite the fact that it doesn't have a manual, yes, it has all-wheel drive as standard, which is weird on an M car other than an X5 or X6M, but I love it. This actually is so fun to drive, and I think it would be very easy to fix. Of course it would be very easy to fix. Several $1,000 aftermarket exhaust, and this thing should scream pretty loud. And a little tune, and yeah, I'd wake this thing up a little bit, but it does not need to be any faster. That's for damn sure. The fact that you can go into a dealership and buy these cars now, I mean, an M5 and an E63 in terms of exclusivity and availability to buy one, anybody with the money can go and buy one of these. It's almost scary. You could drive this to work, you know, take the kids to school, give the keys to your wife, do grocery runs, whatever you want to do, take the dogs. But it could also easily kill you. I mean, this thing is very, very fast. Supercar levels of fast, 11.1 seconds. I mean, for instance, a Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG runs an 11.7 in the quarter mile. That's an SLS AMG, the Gullwing Mercedes, 11.7. And this runs an 11.1. How staggering is that? In terms of interior, I love the way this interior looks. The seats from the front, they're nice and beefy. We got this massive shoulder bolstering. The rear of the seats, actually, though, when you're sitting in the back, they look kind of like a fat penguin, I'm not gonna lie. And it feels like there's a tiny bit less room in the rear of the M5 as compared to the E63, but it also feels like it's a much more comfortable car on long drives. If you wanted to go to Vegas, you wanted to do a long road trip, I would take one of these all day over the E63, no questions asked. If I wanted a car to have fun in the canyons, I'll probably take the E63. If there's tighter turns, I like this. I really like the feedback in the steering wheel, and I really like the way the steering itself feels. but the sound and the character and the shifts in the E63 just feel a little bit nicer to me. Oh, this thing is fun. It is so easy and predictable to slide this car around, and that's why the BMW M5 was able to crush that world record attempt, obviously refueling and planning and driver skill and all that, but they built a good car to set the world record drift. I do wish that they had optional sports seats in this car. I do wish that they had a little bit nicer looking carbon fiber. This is kind of small, to be honest, the actual weave in the carbon. But other than that, the M5 really, really is a fantastic package. Oh my God! Wow! Yep, that 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. This thing is fast. The E63 and the M5 both launched so hard off the line, it's actually staggering and is likely to scare people and injure some people's necks. So please don't sue BMW. I'm sure you can't sue BMW and they have a million asterisks, but this thing actually is a weapon, and it is a weapon in a fantastic way. I just love the M5 after spending the day with it, and it's got me thinking. It's got me thinking, do I trade out the E63 for an M5 to experience both cars? They both have their pluses and minuses. Is one better than the other? Very much depends on your needs, but one thing's for sure, both cars from Germany are absolutely fantastic. Seriously guys, give this video a big thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on. We got some awesome content coming. See you next video.